upon their arrival was almost unspeakable.
We thought all evil in some form or another. I'm not guilty.
The dead won't bother you. It's the living you gotta worry about.
If I couldn't keep them there with me whole, at least I felt that I could keep their skeletons.
Hello and welcome to the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. I'm Rachel.
I'm Vicky.
How are you guys doing?
Hello, everybody.
Are we doing sexy? Are we doing cute?
Nah.
No, me neither.
No, I'm in full fall mode.
No, same. I'm literally in fight or flight.
Full on fall mode.
Like
getting ready
fall
for
down on the couch?
like fall the season.
Oh yeah, you are wearing. She is wearing. Your sweater is so cute. I don't
Thank
think
you.
I complimented you on this sweater. It's
This
a
is
pumpkin
my
spice latte.
It's like a Christmas sweater, but it has little pumpkin spice lattes on it, and it says PSL, and there's little pumpkins and
little
coffee beans and
It's
little
so
fall
cute.
leaves.
It looks soft.
I wear this year round, like when it's
yeah.
cold.
It's always fall.
This
in
is
my
like
heart.
my signature sweater. I
Yes.
actually got this from okay, so I was sent this by somebody. I got this a couple years ago. I sent a link to this. They were like, "Oh, isn't this cool?" And I was like, "That is really cool. I'm actually going to buy it." It was like $50. But I got it from fun.com of all places.
Oh.
And I say this because they actually have some really good shit. It sounds like it wouldn't be, it sounds like it would be like,
us.
this is not a sponsorship, I should say.
It could be.
But they have a line of sweaters like this that are
It looks so comfy.
They have it really is. They have a lot of like branded character type sweaters and stuff.
Cool.
But they also have just like general like spooky themes or like Christmas sweaters or like whatever. They're really good quality. Like seriously, like this is a great quality.
Yeah.
It has
I
not
thought someone, like,
ever
made that for
shrunk.
you.
I got it in like an XL, and frankly, I probably could have sized down, but this is great because I kind of like oversized sweaters.
I think that's the best.
So comfy. I thought it was going to be kind of crap, but like, sometimes you buy websites and it's like,
especially with knitted stuff.
I love
you
this.
literally never know.
This is my
It's
favorite
so
thing.
cute.
Fun.com. That is a personal endorsement.
Fun.com.
Yeah, and they had I actually want to go look because they had a lot of stuff on sale.
I'm gonna go look.
This is a total aside.
No, it's important.
Yes, yeah. Well, now that you know where to get some really great sweaters,
Yeah, sweater weather.
let's head over to the newsroom.
Fit to breathe, our food is unfit to eat. We sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad.
So this week, our story comes to us from France.
France.
So there was this hack that happened to France's Schneider Electric.
Mm-hmm.
A hacker group said that they stole 40 gigs of data. The company is an energy management and automation engineering group.
40 gigs doesn't sound like a lot.
Doesn't sound like a lot.
But I'm sure it is in this case.
But yeah, I don't know like what specific kind of information. It says the threat that it's sensitive data, including information about company projects, staff, and user data. Mm-hmm. They are threatening to release it, but have asked for a ransom. Okay.
Ooh.
And that ransom is $125,000 in baguettes.
Shut the fuck up. It's
Yeah.
a bread ransom?
It is a full-on bread ransom. They're like, we want $125,000 worth of your best baguettes, please. Yeah.
Oh my God.
I know.
That's honestly everything.
This is from a website called Tom's Hardware. But they've said that if the hackers have said that if Schneider publicly admits to the latest data breach, so it sounds like they have hacked this data. The hacker group has come out and said, hey, we've hacked your data. We have this. But Schneider itself has not publicly recognized that. Yeah, like they haven't publicly been like,
They're like, nuh-uh.
we've been hacked. They said if they publicly admit to the latest data breach, the ransom would be cut in half. Thus, the ransom demanded would decrease to $62,500 worth of baguettes, we would presume. And then it says, even with a 50% deduction, that's still a lot of dough. Just saying.
Why?
At the time, I don't know.
That's
at the time
funny.
of recording, they still have not, from what I could tell, said whether they are going to satisfy the ransom or
Will they say
they are not
no?
confirming like the scale of the breach. They're saying they're investigating a cybersecurity incident.
Wow. To me, that sounds like it must be like a personal. That's personal for somebody to do that, like something that petty and like stupid. They must be trying to like take this company down for something.
Yeah, and
Or
I'm
like
not
get
sure
back
what.
at someone, you know?
Yeah, it says that somebody talked to a representative from the hacking group called ICA. And it says
I see a lot of bread.
ICA does not extort cash from companies if they admit to being breached within 48 hours. So it's possible. What I could see is maybe not even like trying to get back at the company for something, but just like publicly showing the flaws in their cybersecurity.
Like Robin Hood shit.
Yeah.
I love that.
Because there's like the whole like black hat, white hat hacker thing.
Black buns, white buns.
Yeah.
Pumpernickel versus
I just love that they're like, we want baguettes.
We want some bread.
In exchange for this information.
All I did was steal.
So moving right along to Netflix and Kill. This week is a Max and Kill, where we are talking about a documentary on Max called I'm Not a Monster, The Lois Reese Murders. Did you get a chance to check this one out?
I did not.
So this came out on October 15th. It's a 2-part series on Max. Essentially what happens is that in 2018, in this tiny town in Minnesota, a 56-year-old woman named Lois Reese murders her husband David and then sort of like goes on the lam. Essentially.
She's like, bye.
Yeah, she murders him. They own this worm farm. Ew. So for like, I think it's for bait.
Oh.
Yeah, they like breed worms for bait specifically.
Because I know people breed worms for like silk.
No, it was not that. It was some
like
type
for
of bait worm.
I've never thought about that before. I know people buy bait, but I always just assume you just dig up worms from the ground where it's for free.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's not like a never-ending supply. You got to dig in the right spot. You know how long that would take?
I don't feel like it would take that. I feel like there's worms in my garden.
I mean, yeah, but like enough to satisfy like a full day of fishermen.
Ew.
Of seamen.
Ew.
Yeah, so
worm farm.
They have this worm farm and she like tells the employees that like David's been sick and he's not coming into work, and then she leaves with his car and like sort of goes on the run, but is like not on the she says like, she's not on the run.
I'm just on a vacation.
Yeah. So this happened in 2018. This is like her first, like the first major time that she has sat down. They actually go to the prison where she's incarcerated, and she does an interview herself with people talking about the story, the whole story behind it. She's talking about her accounting of things, where she says, yes, I did murder him, but he was abusive, like really emotionally abusive, very controlling. There are people who talked about him controlling the money, and because she had a daycare and was making this money, and like, so there are these like
conflicting
story, yeah, and some of it matches up truthfully, but like she also then embezzled from him and from the company. I think before and after he was murdered. I definitely after, but
why did you run away?
There is also the fact that she murdered somebody else while she was on the run.
Everybody needs a hobby.
There was an alleged second murder of a stranger in a hotel. She then like stole their identity.
What?
And yeah, it's kind of a wild story. It's kind of a wild story. I saw the trailers for this and thought, oh, it looks kind of interesting, but honestly, it kind of looks like your run-of-the-mill true crime documentary, but it's a really interesting story.
Those
because
are the best ones.
It's kind of crazy. And she, especially the point where she is like on the run and meeting this stranger that she then later kills. She like meets this person at a bar and they kind of become friendly, and they end up going back to this hotel room together.
So like,
So it's interesting to me to hear her sort of like,
that's a really good license plate picture.
rationalize almost like rationalize all of her actions within that time, like after she murdered her husband and like being on the run is like weird.
Yeah.
You know,
It's
I don't
interesting
know.
to listen to people try to be like,
I mean,
I did
she's
this for a good reason.
She's just a 50-some, well now, yeah, she's just a 50, almost 60-something-year-old woman who's like, my husband was abusive and now I'm just out here trying to like make it and then gets caught.
Out here trying to not be me.
Yeah, it's a very interesting story. Definitely recommend.
Oh my God.
Especially because it's only 2 parts. I'm just saying.
She wildin'.
Perfect length. But that is I'm Not a Monster, the Lois Reese Murders, and that is on Max. This is that part of the show where we say content may not be appropriate for all listeners. I'm definitely talking about crime.
Yeah, crime and murder.
There's some murder. It's nothing like crazy extreme, I would say.
Yeah.
Like nothing too extreme. I also, at the beginning, I totally missed this. If this is your first time listening, a special hello to you. I don't think I said that on the last one either.
See you there. Hi,
been out of
babe.
practice after we took some time off.
Sit down.
But Rachel, why don't you tell us what we are talking about today?
Should I?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Okay, so this was my topic. And I don't know. I don't know what it is about like the fall. I just want to watch like mafia movies.
That's crazy.
I love like a good old mafia movie.
See, I am not a big like mafia mobster person.
Yeah.
Necessarily. I find it kind of interesting, but like, I don't know. It's just not really, I'll be honest, not really my jam.
Everybody has just like little things that are like super interesting.
But there are some things about the mob and the mafia that I'm like, okay, that's like, you know, there's definitely some like the money laundering and stuff. I'm like, I'm here for that.
Well, of course.
I'm here for that.
Yeah. As soon as it goes to court, Vicky's like, I'm back in.
I'm here.
I totally get that. I love like the aesthetic, which is honestly
Okay.
But this is, you know, me. I feel like every time like I watch something like that, I'm like, I had to have been like a mob wife or something in a past life.
Yeah.
It just like appeals to me for some reason.
It's like
just
Big Ange is my spirit animal.
I love her. Rest in peace, Big Ange.
Oh my God.
Murder? That doesn't make him a bad guy.
I miss her.
Oh boy.
Oh my God. She is living it up in the afterlife.
I bet.
Love Big Ange.
Yeah, no police in the afterlife.
Mansion. You want me a baby puppy? So
Unless I watch Mob Wives, people are not going to know what the fuck you were talking about.
Everybody needs to watch Mob Wives.
It's pretty good.
It's so good.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Please watch Mob Wives. This is the Mob Wives podcast. So I've just always really liked the aesthetic. Like, I'm not justifying it, and I think it's definitely been over glorified.
Like, I think that's it for a lot of people though. Is like the gangster like
Just, I like the very like I like how it's like really violent, like, you know, awful, horrible crime, but then with this very like family element and these strong like cultural overtones with like, because I'm talking specifically about like the Italian mafia in mine. So like all of those like cultural overtones as well. It's just really interesting. Like I've always liked kind of the juxtaposition of these like these horrible, crazy stories and then like beautiful, like ivy covered buildings and like they're all dressed really nicely and stuff. And it's just like,
it's like heavy on the loyalty. You never go against the family.
Yeah, can't be a rat.
Yeah.
No rats.
Very heavy on the, I get what you're saying though. It is kind of a juxtaposition between these two, like, like
interesting.
Being a criminal with morals almost. Cause there's also things there's things, if I remember, maybe this is a trope or not, but it's like you never kill women and children, or like you never, you know what I mean? Like,
that in this one.
Yeah. But like, there's some of these ideals that are like very core.
Code.
The code for sure.
Which is funny. And I mean, as Americans, it's very, I'd say it's interesting, but it's really not how we glorify some organized crime and totally demonize other organized crime. And it's split down the color lines.
Oh, for sure.
Completely.
For sure.
Completely. And that's crazy. That's crazy. So, like, when you think of mafia, mob stuff, we think of the term organized crime.
Yes.
So that term was formed in the 1900s, but the practice itself is much older, predating the term by like a couple hundred years.
Okay.
In fact, some of the first known examples of what we now recognize as organized crime began all the way back in the 1600s. in like Florence and Naples, I think was the like originated area, where violent groups would terrorize the Italian countryside with various criminal acts, including money laundering, drug trafficking, and arms dealing, among other offenses.
Damn. I'm not gonna lie, that's way earlier than I would have expected. Because I was thinking like Victorian era, because obviously, you know, there's like street gangs. Like that was heavy on the street gangs, right? Yeah. But that is like wicked early. Yeah. Wicked early.
That's like,
of course it's in Florence.
Force. Like, isn't that nuts?
Yeah. Yeah.
Calm down, Florence. Go home, Florence. You're drunk. Over time, the mob, or, and I think this is so cool, as it's often referred to by its members, La Cosa Nostra, which means this thing of ours, or like our thing. It's just our thing.
La Cosa Nostra.
It's not your thing, it's our thing. Made its way over to America, where they enmeshed themselves not only into our criminal history, but firmly into our media. Yeah. You know, I'm talking about mafia movies.
There was a full-on gang just called La Cosa Nostra, wasn't there?
Oh, yeah?
I'm pretty sure in New York.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
It was like that was what they used to reference, but I'm pretty sure like the gang's name was La Cosa Nostra, right?
It's just so like fancy sounding.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure they got prosecuted for something out of the Southern District of New York.
Nerd.
I know. Nerd alert.
Law nerd.
So it's so true. It was like one of the first RICO cases, I think, or it's like James Comey took him down. No.
Oh.
Who was the Southern District? It was one of the Southern District of New York. I'd have to think on it a minute.
One of our former like recordings, we talked about RICO, and you were like, you explained it to me, and you're like, you're going to see it everywhere now, and I do.
Yeah, especially with mob cases. Especially, that's why they have it.
Yep.
Anyway.
Yep.
Sorry.
No,
I'm probably jumping ahead a little bit.
Not. No. Yeah. So our society totally, like, through all of these mafia movies, mafia shows, The Sopranos, The Godfather. Like, I see people posting like TikTok edits of like being a beautiful mob wife in the 80s, which like is frankly a little wild. I get part of it. Like, who doesn't kind of want to be like Michelle Pfeiffer at a glamorous like 60 pounds?
But again, it's the aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like
in a
the vibe.
diamond encrusted gown in a luxurious mansion, you know, around mountains of only the finest Colombian booger sugar.
All the cocaine.
All of it in the world. And the fact that these Hollywood images aren't even all that exaggerated when it comes to the luxury makes the fact that the mafia is still chugging along today honestly kind of make a ton of sense. I feel like it's kind of divided. I've talked to people like our age who are like, is the mafia still around? I'm like,
oh, for sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes, they're still around.
Yeah.
But it's just not reported on exactly the same. I think they've gotten like smarter.
Well, I mean, I think there's definitely a certain amount of evolution that has happened in the way they practice business. But they are definitely still around. Like, you have to adapt to a digital age and change your, you know what I mean? Like,
it's just funny that people are like, is that still a thing? I'm like, yes.
Oh, 100%.
Like, they might not still be dressing in zoot suits and eating at, you know,
100%.
Italian restaurants anymore.
No, now they're dressing in tracksuits and wearing silver chains and, you know. A little bit of chest hair peeking out.
Oh my god!
You know,
yes,
that's the image that I have of like modern day like
yummy
mobster.
Tony Soprano.
Oh my gosh,
he's a little delicious. I don't want to hear anything about it.
Was he in tracksuit in Sopranos? Did they do that?
I was just thinking about the chest hair.
Oh, okay. I've never seen Sopranos. Or The Godfather. Oh my god. Or it's just not really my thing. I'm just kind of like whatever. Nah, that's fine.
That's okay. That's okay. I haven't seen all of The Sopranos.
Okay.
But it's pretty good. So, quick side note about The Sopranos. This is one of my favorite things. So, James Gandolfini was the lead guy, Tony Soprano, in The Sopranos. And while they were on the show, they would get, like, the studio would get calls, like, from the mafia being like, don't do this, don't do that. Like, and I heard an interview asking James Gandolfini, like, have you had any like crazy encounters in the show? And he said the craziest thing that ever happened to him was he was like an episode aired where he, I guess, was wearing like shorter shorts, like his character for a scene. I don't know why, like he was at the beach or something, but was wearing shorter shorts. And he was at his hotel that like the night it aired, and he got a call that was just like a scary voice being like, Dons, do not wear shorts like that. Do not wear that again. And like click.
Oh my
hang up,
God.
and he was like, I knew. He's like,
That's
I don't
so
have
funny.
any proof. He's like, that was a mobster for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Like, that's like,
sure.
I'm like, I think that's so funny that like of all the stuff that happened on the show,
Yeah.
they're like, get yourself together.
There's definitely like one of the podcasts I listen to, like one of the Slow Burns or Crime Town, like one of those where they were talking about the mafia, and one of the guys who was like a former mobster was like a consultant on like The Godfather or something. You know what I mean? Like they like,
yes,
you know, which I just think is hilarious. Anyway,
there was a guy, I haven't watched all of this. I haven't watched actually a lot of The Sopranos. I just started. But I guess one of the guys on the show like was about that life at one point.
I can see it.
The kid who played James Gandolfini's like son, who like kind of grows up through the show, said like that he would say stuff to him all the time, like really sketchy. And he's like, I would go in and he'd just be like sitting around with a bunch of guys. They'd all like turn to look at you. And it's like, am I in the show?
yeah.
Oh no, this is just your life.
That's
like,
wild.
Okay,
That's
crazy
wild.
guy. Like whatever.
Yeah. Anyway.
So I talk about wanting to be like the mob wives. But obviously a huge part of the mafia like lifestyle is all about the very male, macho, like machismo. I know that's Spanish, but like kind of thing.
Yeah.
That classic tough guy image has become synonymous to our society as to how a criminal, quote unquote, should be. That sort of like code of ethics, and they're very like suave, you know?
Yeah.
Which was part of the way the mafia would take advantage of young, impoverished immigrants who often didn't have legitimate male role models to look up to.
Sure.
You know, if they're from these working class families, their dad's off at work, or sometimes their moms would be single mothers. So they, you know, they didn't have time to have this male role model.
Right,
They didn't have that in their lives. And the family aspect of these mob groups made that very attractive to these young men. It made them feel like they belonged and that they could be powerful in a society that often spit in their faces.
Yeah.
The subject I picked, I feel like, is kind of the perfect example of the exact set of qualities the mafia looked for. Clearly ambitious, with a chip on his shoulder the size of Mount Vesuvius, and a violent streak that would shock and horrify even the most enthusiastic Goodfellas fan. But who was Tommy Patera, and how would he make himself stand out among the other mob hopefuls?
Oh boy.
OMG, calm down.
I'm literally about to tell you.
Tommy Patera was born December 2nd, 1954, in the spookily named Gravesend in Brooklyn, New York.
Ooh, I love that.
I know.
Gravesend. Love that.
Isn't that cute?
Love that.
He was, as I said, a first-generation immigrant. I feel like kind of the thing with the mafia is like everyone's Italian. So his mother, Catherine, was German and Polish, and his father was Italian.
Okay.
And
it was not uncommon to be like first generation in the mob too, because
completely.
all of these people who were immigrating to the United States were dropping into like certain areas, right? Like Italy town, Chinatown, Poland town, like,
and the mafia would
they're all
run
kind of in
these towns.
Oh, for sure.
Completely.
For sure.
Completely. And that's, I really think that like they took advantage. Like as always, I have mixed feelings about like the mob and gangs and stuff, because certain things that they have done good things.
Yeah.
It's mostly bad stuff, but like I don't want to count out the few
but
good things
they're also like philanthropists in a weird way.
in a little bit. You know? I'm not trying.
They're like, support the local baseball team.
Yeah, come
We're
on,
like,
recycle.
you know, but make sure you pay me your your rent, or it'll be a real shame if something happened to your business. Yeah.
Wow, that was
I think I just got that all out of my system. I don't need to do that at
so
all for
good.
the rest of the episode.
Oh, I was going to do it the rest of the episode.
Nah.
I'm still doing
No.
it. So, yeah, and that's the thing. A lot of them completely were first generation immigrants.
Yeah.
Cute detail. His father, Joseph Joe Patera, was a candy salesman, which I always think is like the cutest job of all time. So cute.
The Candyman can.
Candyman can cause he mixes it with love. Now, I feel like whenever I picture career criminals as children, I literally just think of like a shrunken Tony Soprano, like tiny and like the little zoot suit, like bullying other kids on the playground, shaking them down for their juice boxes, huffing a little chocolate cigar.
Tell Andy, if you don't get the answer to the spelling test by third period, he's going to be swimming with the fishes.
Like very that.
Yeah.
But Thomas Patera did not fit that mold. In fact, he was bullied terribly throughout his youth for one reason and one reason alone, his voice. He has the weirdest, this poor guy. I don't know, like, I feel like if he were born in the modern day, like maybe he had like something wrong with his throat, or maybe it was like a pituitary issue.
Yeah.
But he had a very, very, very high-pitched voice.
Love that.
High-pitched and like kind of like warbling.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah. He was often mocked and even beaten by his classmates for appearing girly and weak.
Oh, poor
I'm
guy.
Like, cry me a fucking river. No, I know that's rough, but I'm like, you should want to be girly. Girls are amazing. Again, very like me.
Yeah, but I'm also like, kid got bullied for
I
something that's like
know.
out of his control.
I know.
Yeah.
But still, the whole thing is so silly.
Yes. Yeah.
You should
I
be like,
agree. I agree.
That's not offensive because women are great. What, you guys don't like women?
Yeah.
Ew.
That they didn't.
They
then.
probably didn't.
And
They probably still don't.
no.
Who loves being in November? All of us.
Move along,
doing
move along,
great.
move along, move along.
What? I'm just
Flag,
talking about
flag,
the
flag, 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 flag. Move along, move along, move along.
Sorry, I was possessed. But this injustice of being bullied throughout his childhood, and again, like poor guy.
Yeah.
Like, it really seemed like he had a really hard time. Would harden little Tommy's tiny half-Italian heart and very may well have influenced his later crimes, especially the brutality he used while committing them. Now, I feel like with everything that he was going through, it's not unusual that Tommy decided to look into sports as an outlet for his frustrations. And a lot of kids at that time, like baseball in New York was very popular because it was something to do. And it was a way to kind of keep out of trouble.
And it was like, you didn't need a ton.
Right.
Like you didn't need a bat if you had a stick. You know,
exactly.
it's like,
yes.
you know,
Very much so.
you played anywhere,
And
played
it
in
had
the street.
structure. There was a coach, you know. So it was a good thing mostly for these kids.
Yeah.
But the particular sport he chose, because, would not only set him apart, but cement his place in mafioso history. It would also later give him his super cool mafia nickname, Tommy Karate Patera.
Tommy Karate. I like that. Tommy
that
Karate.
cute?
That's great.
I kept
That's
thinking of
great.
like Tommy Bahama the whole time I was typing this. I'm like, oh my God. That's right. Little Tommy would take his love of martial arts legend Bruce Lee, who he obsessively watched on television performances, such as he was in something called The Green Hornet.
Okay.
He was obsessed with that.
Okay.
And would transform it into a lucrative career choice.
Oh, I love that for him.
Cute sidebar, because we were talking about baseball. Before he chose martial arts, Thomas attempted to join a little bit more of a typical New York pastime, which is baseball. But I guess the other kids on the team were like, aren't you that kid with the high-pitched voice? Get fucked.
my
And
God.
they were so terrible to him.
Kids are so mean.
I know that he was essentially ostracized from the sport. But Tommy would end up getting the last laugh. Did he say stand up for himself in a demure, mindful, and nonviolent way?
No.
No. He literally broke into the school and stole the team's equipment, selling it on the street.
Oh, I
as an
love
act of
that.
Revenge. So they like turned up and all of their shit was gone.
That's like that's like an 80s movie prank.
Isn't that cute?
Yeah.
He even stole their
Peanuts and Cracker Jacks.
Oh my God.
They don't care if he ever comes back. This admittedly really funny crime would land him his first criminal charge for burglary, but as a juvenile, his record was sealed and he was able to continue his rascally behavior. So he like kind of got a slap on the wrist. And They
Okay.
were like, okay, this is your first offense, whatever. After baseball was like, you are out of here. Isn't that what they say? Thomas Patera was like, dang. She hates me so much.
You're so stupid.
You shouldn't have hired me, idiot.
I did it.
It's dead. I was there. I just spawned here one day. So after that, Thomas Patera was like, dang, now what should I do with all of this like misplaced physical rage? And a local dojo in Sheepshead Bay, New York was like, come on in, girl. We don't care if you have a squeaky voice as long as you can punch. And punch he did, quickly rising through the ranks to become one of the school's most powerful students. They entered him in a local tournament where he bested 7 opponents to win the title. Now, this is like crazy. Not only did he win a cash prize for winning the tournament, but the winnings also included a trip to Japan, where he studied under revered Japanese martial arts Shihan Hiroshi Masumi in the ways of Koryu ninjutsu.
Damn, that's when like competition prizes were actually good.
Yeah, I'm like, you get to go to Japan.
Free
and, like,
trip to Japan.
A martial artist.
Yeah,
like, hello.
That's
I want to do
crazy.
That.
I love that.
I know. And I talk about this a little bit later. So obviously his later mafia friends called him Tommy Karate. But he didn't do karate. He did ninjutsu.
Oh.
So
actually,
they were
that is an actually moment.
Well, this is I don't even know if
what does ninjutsu rhyme with? Nothing. Not Tommy. They're not gonna call him Tommy Ninjutsu.
I think that's kind of cool.
I mean, it sounds cool, but
it's like, it's not karate.
Yeah.
If my husband were here, he'd be like, no.
You should just start calling him Tommy Karate.
That's literally, oh my God.
Like a regular old Tommy Karate over here.
Robbie Karate. That's hilarious. My husband, Rob, his family, they're like karate champions. Not to brag, but like if you ever get mad at something that I say on the podcast and you want to come and beat me up, you probably shouldn't.
My husband knows karate.
Because my husband's a 6th degree black belt and he won junior world Olympics.
I would call Rob to beat somebody up for me. Not that I'm, no, because I don't.
Do you need someone to beat up for you?
Nope, we are not. No.
We're online. Call the flashing red button and we'll patch you through. That's part of why I found this case so interesting is because my husband and his family are like obviously super into martial arts. So when I was looking for this case, because I love mobsters, I was like, Tommy Karate sold.
That's great.
But yeah, he didn't do karate. He did ninjutsu. So he ended up staying in Japan for just over 2 years, where he really enmeshed himself in the Japanese culture. You'd think like a little Italian kid from New York would kind of be a fish out of water, but not Tommy. He truly loved the culture. He read countless books on not just martial arts, but on war, and started to become even more comfortable with violence, which honestly goes against the true spirit of martial arts. But I guess he didn't read those books.
No.
He only read the kick.
He skipped he only read the first half.
Yeah, he was like, oh, is this the introspective chapter? Skip. His affinity for sushi, rice, and seaweed, along with other cultural ideas he picked up from Japan. Like, so when he went back to America, when everybody else was eating, not to be offensive, but like mastacholi and shit, he was like, I'm having sushi.
Yeah.
Like, he continued to live that way throughout his life.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so he was very kind of unique. He also
was probably a lot healthier.
Super healthy.
Than everybody else.
Some of the old pictures of him, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, probably way healthier than, Americans are not known for having the healthiest food. Like, let's be real.
Like, I just started watching The Sopranos, like I said, and it is kind of confusing. The first 3 episodes, I'm like, so which old heavy-set white guy are they talking about? Which of the 25 old big white dudes? I love an older heavy-set white man, but which one are you talking about? You all look the same. So I'm sure Mr. eats raw fish is glowing from all of the amino acids.
For sure.
Yeah, completely. And they're all just crying and I just ate 70 pounds of Alfredo.
Yeah.
He's like,
all the mozzarella.
I'm ready. So that would kind of set him apart from everybody else, and they all called him Tommy Karate, which is offensive. Although he was still considered by some to be unusual with his high-pitched voice and now with his long black hair that he grew out to match his idol, Bruce Lee, gone were the days of Tommy getting bullied. He had gained not only muscles, but confidence. And if he had used it for good, I bet he would have been a super cool stunt fighter or champion martial artist. But this isn't the stunt fighter or champion martial artist podcast. This is the crime podcast. And he committed crimes. There you go. After his time in Japan, Tommy would return to New York, where he joined up with the Bonanno crime family, hi-ying his way up the ranks to become one of their most powerful hitmen. And hit he did, rubbing elbows with some of the top mobsters and impressing them with not only his martial arts skills and training, but his efficacy at killing and disposing of bodies. A chore that he was skilled at and apparently enjoyed.
I'm going to be honest. There was part of me that was thinking because he was in Japan that he might have joined up with the Yakuza.
That's what I wondered too, but
the Bonannos were big deal.
Oh yeah.
Big deal.
Oh, he
They were one of the 5, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yep. Super big. I don't know why he chose to come back. He really seemed to like Japan.
Yeah.
So maybe he wanted to be with his family or whatever. Who knows? knows?
Family.
Gotta be loyal to the family. He was so good, in fact, that the other crime families would hire him to take people out. And I don't mean out for cannolis. Famed head of the Gambino crime family, John Gotti, hired him personally when he discovered that one of his longtime associates, Willie Boy Johnson, was actually
A fucking rat.
a hired informant for the government. And like this was in the 80s, and I looked it up. He had been an informant. This guy had been an informant since the 60s.
Damn.
So this was one of John Gotti's like besties.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was like a big deal. And Tommy probably said, hey, forget about it, bang, bang, and murdered Wilfred Johnson as he walked to his car on August 29th, 1988. He would be charged with the murder, but
so
ended
long
up, I know.
to be an informant.
I know, like,
and not
seriously.
be found out and not get found
Yeah.
out before that. Like, that's crazy to me.
There's probably like 1,000 movies about it.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then to be killed by Tommy Karate
Pow.
with a shotgun to the
Rat-a-tat.
neck. He would be charged with the murder, but ended up being acquitted at trial, which was pretty common since, of course, corruption in the mob, kind of go hand in hand.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you haven't heard, if you
Little
don't know,
payoff
now you
here,
know.
little payoff there.
Yeah. And I mean, if John Gotti is hiring him, John Gotti has some money.
Yeah, for sure.
So-
yeah.
Tommy was able to gleefully return to his criminal activities. I mentioned earlier that he liked to read books on murder, which, weirdo? Who researches murder? Weirdo people.
Not us.
Weirdo.
Definitely not us.
I don't even know what murder is. This interest in crime would greatly benefit him, especially the books he read about dissection and decomposition.
Ooh.
He would eventually become so skilled at chopping up bodies that it became kind of like a trademark for him, which is gross. This is like a little like tidbit from later, like when he's like in trial for like being horrible and killing a million people. In like a mob graveyard in Staten Island, investigators eventually, when they're taking this to trial, found 6 of his victims. And the way that he had, I keep thinking decapitated, chopped up.
Okay.
The bodies.
Dismembered.
Dismembered. Thank you. The way that he had dismembered.
I mean, he probably decapitated too,
He
but
did. That's what I mean. The way he had dismembered them was so clinical and cold. They said
Yeah.
they had never seen anything like it. He had buried the heads separate from the bodies.
wow.
And he specifically, so he was reading all of these books. He researched the type of soil and specifically buried these particular bodies in this Staten Island graveyard because the soil there was super damp. It was
Okay.
also home to a wildlife refuge, and they often did construction projects there. So he was like, it's kind of the perfect.
Wow.
There's always enough going on that no one will find it, which of course people did.
Wow. It's a really good planning of crime.
He always wrapped. Yeah,
That's incredible planning.
specifically- And this is who he was. He was very smart.
Yeah.
He always insisted upon burying corpses deep enough so that the police dogs could not locate their scents. And he would either put them in suitcases or wrap the body parts in plastic so that it was even harder to. So he really thought this out. I feel like most of, I always think it's funny. Who's the one mobster who everyone's like, where's his body? That one dead guy.
Jimmy Hoffa?
Jimmy Hoffa, that's right. Everyone's like, where's Jimmy Hoffa? I'm like, he's in the river. That's where they put all of their bodies. Why would they have put him somewhere conspicuous under the stadium? They would not have. He's in the river and they'll never find him. He's wearing cement shoes.
It's much more fun though
at the bottom of the river. Well, completely.
to be under a stadium than
completely.
with the fishes.
It's you don't want to be swimming with the fishes. You want to be in the stadium. If you were a ghost, you'd probably love that.
But you're absolutely right. People were not just taking so much. Honestly, I think it's taking pride almost, I want to say, in disposing
And
their
he
bodies.
did.
Everybody else was just dumping them in the dump, in the river,
Yeah. Because even a lot of the mob, the when they weren't killing other people, but they were killing people in the mob, it was usually because you betrayed or you did whatever.
Yes.
But they don't want to draw attention to themselves, and they're not murdering to murder. They're murdering to get rid of a problem.
Yeah.
He murdered because he enjoyed it. He obviously got hired to do so and made
Weird.
quite a lucrative.
It's not great.
thing. And part of the reason, so I often wonder with like these mafia cases, like what really separates some of these mafia like hitmen from serial killers? Like it's really not that different. He is even closer, I think, to a serial killer because of his habit of taking stuff off of the bodies and keeping it as trophies. He often would take jewelry, and he had a ton of money. It wasn't about the money. He wanted the trophy.
Honestly, I feel like the difference is just the organized crime aspect of it.
It's just
like that is literally somebody else ordering. Yeah. I
just mean like psychologically. Like,
right. No, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I see what you're saying. I'm like, that really is the only.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah. Like, he probably was a bit of a serial killer.
I think he was too. Especially because after this all catches up to him, he would be rumored, because he only got charged with 6, but he was rumored to have committed at least 60.
Yeah.
Which I think is probably a low number.
Yeah.
Because he was a hitman for the mob, like shit. So they would only end up being able to charge him with 6 murders, including the one guy I mentioned, Willie Boy, Ratface informant guy. Not only was he in trouble for multiple murders, which is, I guess, frowned upon, whatever. Okay. He was also responsible for a ton of drug trafficking offenses.
Wow.
So it said Patera's crew, because he was in that big crime family for a while, but he would end up also kind of having a little bit of his own crew. Not like super officially, but like the people he ran with.
Yeah.
Patera's crew sold about 220 pounds of cocaine per year, multiple kilos of heroin, and hundreds of pounds of marijuana.
Damn.
Yes.
That's a lot of drugs.
When
that is
they
a lot of
raided
drugs.
his personal apartment in Gravesend, which again is like so cute.
Spooky.
I love that name. FBI agents discovered more than 60 automatic weapons, knives, swords, and literature such as the Hitman's Handbook and Kill or Be Killed.
That's just light reading.
Yeah. Which,
I was reading it for the articles.
He's like, I like it. He's like, I can't read. It's got good pictures.
Wow.
Which dealt primarily with assassination techniques as well as torture and the dismemberment of cadavers.
Wow.
Not to be stereotypical, but I bet there was also like a whole shelf of like anime. He had like a bunch of like anime posters. He loves Japan. He's got like Godzilla. Oh my God, how cute.
Yeah, I don't know that you can import anime at that point in time.
Well, but he's the mob. He can do anything. He's like,
he does have Japan connections.
If there's a new episode of Attack on Titan, I want to know about it.
Yeah.
I'm all over it.
Oh my God.
He's got like a body pillow. I love that. All of those little like little anime statues. One of the more significant nails in his proverbial coffin was the fact that one of his crew members, Frank Gangi, who was the nephew of the head of the Genovese crime family, decided to testify against him. So the two had been very close and had committed lots of crimes together. So he had a lot of lurid and disturbing stories to tell about Tommy's cruelty, including one about how Tommy had allegedly murdered Gangi's girlfriend.
Damn.
He waited until she was passed out, and because her and Gangi were like in the house partying.
Yeah.
Waited until she was passed out, broke into the apartment, shot her, and dismembered her right in the jacuzzi tub. Ooh. And when Gangi, like, it's not super clear like what he was doing this whole time. I think he was asleep.
Yeah.
But when he woke up, Patera had put her decapitated head on the side of the jacuzzi, like looking at him.
What? Yeah. So that's just vicious.
So this is like who this guy
is.
And the reason he did this, which is so interesting, because he's always described as this like absolute cold, like people
like
who
cold
knew
killer.
him. Well, when it came to killing, like when it came to the mafia, people were like, he's my buddy, like he's my
God.
pal. But like when it came to killing, he was really cold. And the reason that he killed this girl in particular is because he had a girlfriend, Phyllis Birdie, who he like was like the love of his life. And Phyllis was like kind of like a mob mall where she like hung around with gang members.
Yeah.
And many of those young girls at the time were doing this for easy access to drugs. So both her and her good friend, the victim, Gangi's girlfriend, Patera thought that her friend had gotten her addicted to drugs.
Okay.
Where in reality, she was honestly already in the lifestyle and she OD'd. So he, heartbroken, blamed the girl.
Gotcha.
And Gangi was like, hey man, that's kind of like my girlfriend though. And he was like, oh, no, I get it. That's fine. Just tell me next time she's over because I want to talk to her. And he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he woke up and her decapitated head is staring at him from the side of the bathtub.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yo.
Okay.
Wow.
Like, that's a lot. Like, why didn't you use your money to put your girlfriend into rehab?
Yeah.
Why didn't you do that? I think that's your fault. So they were able to charge him with, including that one, 6 murders. Initially, they demanded the death penalty.
Okay.
Because, I mean...
Fair.
They can do 6, but they know it's much more. And he's just been like, you know,
Yeah.
a dickhead.
Yeah, I think 6 qualifies. Like, I think 6 qualifies as pretty fucking bad.
Yeah.
Just
you would think
put it out there.
You would think so. As the jury deliberated, like, on the sentencing, Patera, professional badass, turned to one of the DEA agents. And this is a cold line, but, like, imagine in his cute little high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
I bet you don't have the balls to kill me.
Oh, my God.
And it turned out they didn't. So he was sentenced to life in prison instead, which honestly, for a mobster, I feel like isn't like the biggest
It's
deal.
not terrible. Yeah.
And Patera continues serving his sentence, and he's still alive, and has remained loyal to the Code of Silence. Never said shit. He never testified. He was just like, I'm not. If you want to
part of me is like probably the reason why it's not too terrible is because
he didn't rat.
Because he didn't rat, he'll probably be taken care of to some degree.
He is.
Know?
He has inside prison. He has taken up drawing.
Oh.
And he sells his drawings online via a website, and you can also find his work on Instagram, where he has an account that I'm not going to link because that's insane.
Good idea.
Yeah, I think that's crazy.
I support that.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So that is what Tommy Karate Patera is up to.
Tommy Karate.
I haven't looked it up, but I'm hoping that he draws like anime waifus.
Oh my God,
from
can you
jail.
imagine?
I want that to be true. I want that to be true so bad. So
The
bad.
waifus from prison.
Waifu
Oh
for
my
life.
God. Okay, so when we're talking about mobsters, specifically American mobsters, we do not really have to look any further than our own backyard.
I know.
Chicago is home to some of
Is there a mob there?
There is. It's home to some of the most notorious made men, including Babyface Nelson, John Dillinger, and of course, Al Capone.
That's the guy.
Mr. Al Capone himself.
Yep.
But today, I want to highlight the little-known story of crime, betrayal, and just a little bit of luck.
Ooh.
And it goes by the name Ken Ito.
Okay.
Have you ever heard his name before? He's kind of
Yes.
like a footnote almost.
It sounds familiar, but I'm like not sure.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited.
So Ito was originally born in Stockton, California, and was one of 7 children.
Ew.
His family were Japanese American and devoutly Christian.
That's what I was going to say.
With
Okay,
Ito's...
also, Vicky, the last one, our cases were dovetailing. This one, my guy's obsessed with Japan, and your guy is Japanese.
I know. I realized when I researched for this in the last episode, I was
my
like,
God.
"You're a bunch of
I swear.
Japanese men. Not on purpose.
We have to, like...
This is just an interesting case.
I'm like beaming it into your head telepathically.
That's it. That's,
Maybe we were separated at birth.
That's it.
That's so funny.
The family was devoutly Christian.
Okay.
And Ito's father even became a pastor while they were in San Francisco. They moved to San Francisco for a while, and he became enamored with this sort of Christianity culture. There was also this sort of...
Which is not what I think of when I think of San Francisco.
Yeah. Well, it was like...
I know it's a different time.
Yeah. At the time, this would have been... in the 30s.
Oh.
So no, this would have been probably mid 30s,
like a pretty gay
early
city,
to mid 30s,
like a progressive city.
Yeah, not in
Am I wrong?
Not in the 30s.
Well, not in the 30s.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. That's true. Good point.
Yeah. So they move out to San Francisco. There was also this idea of wanting to separate himself and the family as a whole from those types of Japanese people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He didn't want to be the ones that were like struggling and like doing, I don't even know. It was like kind of a weird thing. So they became
people are cool.
devoutly Christian.
This guy seems like a dick.
Yeah. And this definitely plays a pretty major role on Ito's view of the world because he hated what he saw as a way too conservative, overbearing, overly religious household. So with only an 8th grade education, Ito ran away from home.
Whoa.
And landed in Portland, Oregon, where he spent a few years working odd jobs and stealing to kind of get by.
He probably went to a few poetry slams too.
Probably. Again, this is like late 1930s Portland.
Drinking vegan matcha milkshakes.
He was mining. I don't know. Now, at the age of 22, in 1941, Ito registered for selective service in Seattle, Washington.
Oh, for the army?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, 1941. So you know what's happening at this time?
Yeah.
Okay. So my history buffs out there, you will know that in 1941, the rest of the world was in the throes of World War II. Yep. And in December of that year, Japan executed their surprise bombing of Pearl Harbor, marking the United States' entry into World War II.
We're like, well, all right.
Just 2 months later, President Franklin D. Roosevelt signed Executive Order 9066, which authorized the forced removal of all persons deemed a threat to national security from the West Coast to, quote unquote, relocation centers.
This is a good one to do this week.
Yeah. Further inland, and created internment camps to incarcerate mostly Japanese and Japanese Americans. Now, unfortunately, Ito was one of these people who was sort of rounded up and incarcerated and was sent to Minnedoka War Relocation Center in Idaho. Which I'm like, of all the places to end up to. Idaho.
Ew.
Yeah. So, although yes, that situation was horrible.
Yeah.
Ito sort of made the best of it and the best of his time there by perfecting his gambling and betting skills while he was there, because that was one of the things they did to pass the time was just gambling and betting with other people at the incarceration camp.
Oh, my husband loves card games. He would
so
excited.
This is kind of he learns sort of playing cards and running games and stuff. Now, during this time would also be sort of his first brush with the law when he was arrested for violating wartime curfew at the camp.
Oh my God.
Which is one of the more common things that people were arrested for at these camps too.
Disgusting.
Yeah. Now, in total, Ito was interred for approximately 7 months.
Wow.
Yeah, the timing. So after he leaves the camp, we next find Ito in 1947 when he arrives in Chicago, where he is making money gambling, just running random games on the streets, doing whatever.
Yeah.
Now, he spent some time in Denver, Colorado, working as a casino dealer, but permanently moved to Chicago later the same year. This time, he set up an illegal gambling scheme called Bolita, where he was bringing in $150,000 to $200,000 a week.
Oh my
which,
God.
For reference, is the equivalent of $2.1 to $2.8 million.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And this was enough. He had enough left over to pay around $3,000 to corrupt police to sort of look the other way.
Oh, okay.
To be like, you don't see anything.
I see.
Take this money.
I mean, I don't.
I don't see. Yes.
I don't see it all.
This worked great in Chicago, where corruption runs pretty fucking deep. But not so great in Idaho, where Ito was arrested in 1950 for obtaining money under false pretenses.
Yeah, nothing to do in Idaho. So
yeah, this one is kind of interesting because I do get this. For me, I'm like, this kind of seems like an uneven application of the law. But you tell me what you think. So essentially what happened is Ito, along with 2 other unnamed guys, the section that I saw about this had their names redacted. Right. So these 2 other unnamed guys.
Which is pretty common with mob shit.
Yeah. They put together $14,000 between the 3 of them to buy 50 cars of opium, which is still in, like, I read it like 10 times and I'm like, no, cars is the unit of measure, 50 cars. And I don't, maybe I'm ignorant and that is like a reference in the drug world that like you measure opium by cars, but I also
the drug world I'm involved in.
I just assume that it's like 50 cars that have opium in the trunk.
That's what I'm thinking.
Is what I'm thinking.
Like a Lamborghini stuffed with opium.
Well, not that flashy.
Sounds like a Lana Del Rey.
Not that flashy. Like a Nissan stuffed with opium. So they get together this money. They buy 50 cars of opium, but when they got it, they found out that it wasn't actually opium. One of the guys thought that Ito and this other guy that was involved knew that was coming, like knew that it was going to be like bad opium or not a good trade.
Ito.
And so he claims that
suspected.
He suspects that this other guy, Ito and this other guy, knew the opium was bad and that they knew that wasn't what they were getting. So he makes a complaint to the government, who then arrested Ito for obtaining money under false pretense. He's like, this guy just tried to steal my opium money. And,
Sir.
But also part of me was like, see, this is what I'm saying. But then I was like, was opium legal then still or no?
Oh.
In the 40s, like the early 40s?
You know what?
No, this would have been, I'm sorry, late 40s, early 50s. Was opium still legal? I don't know. But he reported to the government and was like, he promised me a bill of goods, and the goods that I got are not what he promised me.
Fair enough, bro.
Yeah. So they arrest Ito in Idaho.
Do you think that the guy who ratted him out went back to the mob and was like, "Yup, I did that"? And they're like, "You called the fucking cops?"
And there's also the possibility that whoever he ratted to was like on the payroll, right? Like that could have been a thing too. I don't know.
Totally.
Either way, Ito gets arrested.
Yeah.
He serves almost a year for this offense and then is released on parole in 1951.
Okay.
Now,
did he learn his lesson?
He moves back to Chicago.
Okay.
You know he doesn't. He moves back to Chicago in 1951. He begins working with the Chicago Outfit, oftentimes just called the Outfit. It is the mob in Chicago. The Chicago Outfit is the mob that was running Chicago.
Yes.
The initial introduction was actually made by his then wife, Teresa Ito, who was running her own card game that attracted folks within the outfit. Okay. And so she kind of like makes some initial introductions. Like, this is my husband. He also does gambling things, right? So this is from Chicago Magazine. Quote, years later, an informant would furnish an additional insight on Ken Ito's underworld education. Delinquent on a juice loan he'd taken from an outfit loan shark, the young gambler had been beaten by mob enforcers. Ooh. But Ito, according to an FBI report, displayed such stoicism that he impressed the hoodlums and was eventually employed by them.
Wow. He literally got jumped in.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah. They were like, wow, we were impressed by the way this guy took a beating. You think maybe he should come work for us?
He's like, yeah, no problem. He's like limping away.
Yeah,
as soon as he gets around the corner, he's like,
I'm fine. Yeah. So they're like, come work with us.
Yeah.
ABC 7 Chicago said, quote, Ito grew into a mob sleeper boss, believed the FBI, on par with the famous New York mafioso Meyer Lansky.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, at the time, Ito was the highest ranking Asian American in the outfit.
Oh my God. Okay, representation.
Which was like, again, like you said, these were also primarily Italians in the mob. So it was kind of unusual to have somebody of a different ethnicity.
Well, that's the thing. It's like family.
Yeah.
All the family.
Especially so that high up, which is like... actually, I think I go into this. Jeremy Margolis, the assistant U.S. attorney for the Northern District of Illinois at the time, said, quote, he was known to be as high-ranking as one could be in the Chicago outfit, as high-ranking as a non-Sicilian could be. Oh. He was known, he was trusted, he was the inner circle, and he was the most prolific numbers boss that the Chicago outfit had.
Wow. Oh, yeah. So that's even different. So if they were
Sicilian,
a Sicilian outfit.
I'm going to apologize by all the Italians I just offended and the Sicilians my apologies.
No, I didn't even hear. I've been talking about Italy this whole time. But, Sicily is very like, oh, no, if you're not Sicilian, don't even come over here. So like, that really must speak to like, what a good little noodle he was at being a mafia guy.
Good at doing illegal things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He should have been an accountant.
things would be so different for him.
He probably...
Yeah. Now, by the time Ito joined up with the outfit, power had moved from the Prohibition-era Johnny the Fox Torrio, who had passed his entire empire, to a little bookkeeper named Alphonse Capone.
Who?
Which was then taken over by Tony Big Tuna Accardo.
Big Tuna.
I just love mob names. I'm
Me
sorry.
too. I love them so
I included them as much as I could.
I love them.
Now and it got to Tony Accardo in like the post-war era. So by the time Ito was working with the North Side crew, Vincent Solano was sort of running that part of the city.
Okay.
So they had split it into areas, like Chicago Outfit ran everything. They split it into areas.
Right.
Vincent Solano is in charge of the North Side crew.
Okay.
This gets so confusing, so I'm going to apologize in advance. So many twists and turns. Ito had brought in millions of dollars on the Bolita games while managing to avoid law enforcement for a long time. But everything would change for him in 1980 when the FBI, after months of investigation and observation, caught onto Ito's Bolita racket and decided to move in.
Wow.
Ito was in a room at the Holiday Inn in Melrose Park getting ready to do the count for the week. He would go there like once a week to like count all the slips and stuff. There's a knock at the door. Turns out it was the FBI who swarms the room and arrests Ito.
He's like, this is not my room service.
Yeah.
This is bullshit.
Yeah. This is not also, I'm going to link in the show notes the Chicago Magazine article that I pulled a bunch of research from for this.
Oh, cool.
It is so interesting. But they talk about, this is not like the first time that the FBI knocked on the door. The one FBI agent who he works with throughout the rest of the case accidentally knocked on his door like a week before they arrested him.
Oh my God.
And she's like, sorry, I was looking for my husband. And goes back to the where the FBI was observing him.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of cool. He's like, well, you guys don't have to worry about it because I know which room it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And he didn't know at that point because she literally is like, oh, you're not my husband. And then he's so sorry. And he just like closes the doors. Like,
I wasn't listening to you, and I thought that the person who knocked on the door was like a male FBI agent,
no,
especially
female.
in the time period. And you were like, I have to go find my husband. I just imagined him closing the door, and he's like, who's that gay dude?
Yeah,
That's
right.
so weird. I just had a nice gay gentleman talk to me at the door. I'm sure he's not an FBI agent.
No, a lady, which is even more unusual because there were not a lot of
I was just thinking,
lady
like,
FBI
because
agents.
of the time, I just assume they're all, they all look like DB Cooper.
Pretty much, yeah. Pretty much. Except her.
Sunglasses.
She does, except with a wig. No. So they arrest Ito. The case against him was pretty much slam dunk. When the FBI had showed up at the hotel, they found all of the betting slips. Like, he was literally about to count them. So all of these betting slips, all the various things that he uses for
He got cocky.
Well, I mean, he's in the hotel that he goes to every week to count, do whatever. I'm sure there's a deal with the hotel. Ito...
That's crazy.
Yeah, so he pretty much knew...
Caught him with all the money.
Yeah, there was definitely not a lack of evidence, for sure. Ito pretty much knew he was going to prison at that point. So after opting for a bench trial and pretty much putting up no defense, Ito was found guilty on January 18th, 1983. He wasn't really too concerned about his upcoming sentence because, frankly, the term was not going to be super long.
Right.
You're talking maybe 5 years at the most, which is like not terrible for a mobster. They're like, go serve my time. Yeah, but like, this is before, let me see, 1983. Well, I think because he hadn't been gotten anything else.
I get it. It's just like so much money. I guess I'm always surprised with like financial crimes. I always think they're going to go to jail for longer, and they don't.
No. Yeah, if it's just for gambling. So he wasn't looking at a long term. So he's kind of like, whatever. Then Ito gets a phone call from Solano asking him to meet. This is like in between him getting convicted and his sentencing. Okay. So during the conversation, and amongst like, Solano was like advising Ito to do various things with his case. He said something about, we told you to go to trial, like with a jury, because there's something that they could do for him with a jury, but he opted for a bench. And he was like, well, I figured I could appeal. And he's like, yes, you should appeal. Like, because he's trying to hint like, you should have done it this way so that there was something we could do to help you. So he's giving
like, now
him
you're kind of fucked.
all this advice.
Yeah.
Solano asks Ito about a property that he owned and was selling. It was this like restaurant property that he was like trying, before all this happened, he was trying to lease out.
Okay.
He had a buyer that was potentially interested and wanted Ito to set up a meeting to have this guy come look at the property. So he said he would. Okay. Couple days later, Ito gets another phone call saying that Johnny Gatso and Jay Campsey were going to be near the property the following day and wanted to talk about leasing it.
Okay.
So they all go over to the property to meet. They basically get together, they look at the property, and everybody goes their separate ways.
Cool.
Now, there's a lot of talk about getting money from a backer. Gattuso and Campsey were like, we have this investor that's giving us money. We have to wait for the money to come through. Like, we're waiting on our backer. So there's a lot of that conversation. But Ito is like, I have this other guy who is literally ready to sign the lease on the dotted line. So, like, either you need to get it together or I'm going to sell it to this other guy. So it's, like, kind of time sensitive. So they agree to meet the next day and deal with sort of finalizing everything.
Cool.
Now, before going to this meeting the next day, Ito had to drop off his car to get his radiator fixed. So his wife at the time, Mary Lou, gives him a ride to the restaurant.
Okay.
And was
what happened to Teresa?
oh yeah, he's married 3 times. I think
that was
he
a
ends
gamble
up.
he couldn't pull off.
He does. He gets in total married like 3 times, and
totally.
I think he has like 6 kids.
Yeah.
Total.
Oh, mine was like slutting around. Too.
But
like
the wives were not. This is the only. I don't want to say the only time, but one of the times that like the wife is crucial in this situation.
Yeah, no, totally.
For sure.
They were all
sorry, ladies. I
were...
didn't give you much of a mention of this.
No worries. I love the name Teresa, so I was like, where's Teresa?
Yeah. No, Mary Lou. Now. So Mary Lou gave him a ride to the restaurant because he had to drop off his car and then waited outside for him to be done. And he was like, we just got to go in, sign this paperwork, whatever.
She's like, bring me out a cheesecake.
As she's sitting there, she notices 2 other guys sitting in a car across the street while she was just like waiting. 15 minutes later, when Gattuso left the meeting, so did the other 2 guys that were like in the parking lot. Like Gattuso leaves and these other 2 guys just leave. Turns out the outfit had intended to lure Ito to the restaurant to be shot, but because his wife was there, they ended up not carrying out the hit because they were expecting him to come alone.
Oh my god!
And all of a sudden, that was not the case.
Oh, that's kind of like honorable.
Yeah.
That's nice. She was like, thanks, guys.
Yeah. Now, a couple of days after this meeting, Ito gets another call asking to talk about this lease again. This
Without
time,
your wife.
Yeah.
We hate your wife. Don't bring a...
This time,
Stinky.
Caesar DeVarco and Big Joe Arnold met with Ito to tell him that he was going to dinner with Gattuso, Jay Campsey, and the big boss, Vincent Solano. Now, by this point, Ito had kind of put everything together.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He knew that the outfit was like trying to get him.
It's like, I don't think I'll go to this dinner. I'm sick.
Because not once had, in all this time that he was involved with the outfit, he had never been asked to go to dinner with Solano. Not once. So he's like, this
I don't know if it was a Freudian slip, but when you were talking about it, you were like, they told him he was going to dinner.
Oh, no.
And no, I'm sure that was kind of like, yeah, come to this fucking dinner.
That was not a slip. They straight
I feel
up
like they do not give
called.
invitations. They're like, oh, you're going to be meeting here.
Yeah,
this time.
so yeah, they're like, so go and meet these guys, and then you guys are going to go have dinner with
I wouldn't
Vincent
wanna go
Solano.
either.
Yeah. So he kind of knew like his time was running out.
Gonna punch his
So after this meeting with Caesar DeVarco and Big Joe Arnold, he tries to get all of his affairs in order, essentially. Again, from Chicago Magazine, quote, he drove around for a while. He had to figure out what to do or what he could do. Around 3 p.m., he got back home to Bolingbrook. The thing was the life insurance. Mary Lou needed to know where the $100,000 policy was. He also had to give her the pawn slips, tell her to get everything out of hock by the end of next week, February 18th, 1983, or she'd lose it all. And the lease for the restaurants in Lyons. Mary Lou needed to make sure it got signed. That way, after he was gone, at least some money would be coming in.
Right.
He was going out that night. He told his wife, his last dinner with his friends. She asked if he wanted her to go with him. He said no.
Aww. Oh my gosh.
So he knows. Like, he fully knows.
Oh my God, dude.
What he's walking into.
Run away.
That it is likely unavoidable.
Wow.
There later, he talks about, like, why did you go to this meeting? And he's like, there was still, like, a little hope in me that they knew, even though I had been busted, that they knew that I wasn't talking to the FBI. And there would be, because he was not. The FBI, I want to make it clear, like, when they pulled him in for the Bolita racket, they did press him to flip. And he was like, they talk again, this article was so great. They talk about him talking with this lady FBI agent whose name I forget. And he takes her hands in his and says, look, I know you have a job to do, but I also have a job to do. And you're not going to get me to flip, like, ever. You know what I mean? So he was very like, I am not a rat. Like, I'm not going to flip. And he was like, I assume they knew that. And so there was a small part of him that was like, maybe this is fine. Like, if I go to this meeting, maybe it'll be okay.
Because he'd shown so much loyalty, he would kind of expect that in return.
Yeah. So Ito, 63 years old at this point.
Wow.
Puts on his Sunday best and heads out to possibly his final meeting.
Wow.
When he met up with Gattuso and Campsey, they told Ito they were taking his car. They're like, who's driving? Why don't we take your car? Which was a coupe. So Gattuso gets into the back and Campsey sits shotgun.
Campsey had to take a beat. Like, I gotta take a shit. Hold on.
Sits shotgun. And when
I'm stupid. What's a coupe? What does that mean?
A coupe? It's like a two-door.
Oh.
So you got to, like, move the seat for somebody to get in the back, you know? It's like a tiny car. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you.
So they go to this restaurant. They're like, here's where we're meeting Solano. When they get close to this restaurant, Campsey tells Ito to go down an alley to a parking lot. Like, if you go down this alley, there's a parking lot in the back. It's really close to the restaurant, so we don't have to walk. He goes to the parking lot. When he gets there, there's one other car in this lot. It was at this point that Gattuso, from the back seat, fired 3 shots into Ito's head with a .22 and then left him to die.
Oh, my God.
A few minutes later, Ito sits up in the driver's seat and tries to assess the damage.
He's like,
Yeah. So although he had indeed been shot in the head, and yes, there was blood everywhere, and he was in incredible pain, he managed to survive the shots. He talks about when he was in the car, like, he felt the first shot come in and, like, is kind of realizing this is happening, right? Yeah. He fakes his own death convulsions and, like, slumps over on the driver's on the wheel on the driver's side and waits for them to leave. Waits for a little while and then is like, okay, everyone's gone. Let me figure out what the fuck is going on here.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Is that not crazy? This is why I love this story.
What has this guy been eating?
Well, this is skipping ahead a little bit, but they talk about, because everyone's like, how did you, like, it was literally 3 shots to the dome.
Yeah.
How did you survive that? Well, the theory is that in order to save money and be more untraceable, that they pack their own rounds. And so they didn't use enough gunpowder.
Yeah.
When they packed the rounds to have the impact it needed to actually penetrate the skull.
Oh my God.
Lucky.
3 shots to the head.
Yes.
This dude is like Rasputin.
Is it? It's just wild to me.
I cannot believe that.
Yeah. So once he determined he was alone in the lot, Ito gets out of the car and he's, again, like, there is blood everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
He's like staggering down the street trying to find some help. There's something, I mean, there's a lot at play here too, right? Because now he's officially out with the outfit. They're like, you are out.
Yeah.
So he
was essentially his pink slip right into the back of his head.
So he sees like a bar, but he's like, well, I know that bar is owned by the outfit, so like I can't go in there.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? So he ends up finding a pharmacy. He stumbles in. The owner happened to be there. He asked the owner to call an ambulance. But there's another problem. Ito knew that the Chicago cops were like not going to be super friendly to him anymore.
Oh my God.
So there were a ton that had been bought by the outfit, obviously. And now Ito was on the outs.
This is like John Wick.
I know.
Crazy.
So any hope of like the police being helpful was gone.
No.
Absolutely gone. So the paramedics arrive. And they arrive with some police officers because obviously, right? So when one of the police officers was like, okay, we have to go to the hospital. Obviously, he'd been shot. So like they were like, we have to go to the hospital. He insisted that the youngest of the two cops, who was a rookie, get into the back with him because he did not have time to be bought yet. You know what I mean? Like he took the youngest one because he knew this person would likely not have been so ingratiated with the outfit yet.
And I'm also imagining him using him as like a shield. He's like, it's okay, buddy. Yeah. You know, you're okay. And he's like, yeah, anyway. Just like angling his head in front of him. Like, and in front of me, son.
I do have to admire, like, even though he is obviously he's dealing with getting shot in the fucking head.
Yeah, you know.
Like to have the foresight to be like thinking about these things as he's like this stumbling around bleeding.
Amazingly smart.
Yeah. So it didn't take long for the FBI to hear about this attempt on Ito's life, and they rushed to go see what's going on. Hospital staff determined Ito had not suffered any brain damage, and the bullets had failed to even crack his skull.
Wow.
The hit Solano had ordered came out of the fear that Ito had been talking to the FBI. They assumed because the FBI had busted him that he was talking already. No, he had not. He had not. But now that the outfit had actually tried to fucking kill him, he was ready to sing like a canary. He's like, all right, I'm ready to work with you. He had been steadfast, but like
at this point, it's like, fuck you.
Yeah. And the loyalty thing isn't there anymore. He's like, clearly it's done.
And it's not like they're just going to let him go home. They're going to be like, well, you survived that. I guess we'll never think about it again. No, they're going to kill him. So that's his only chance, really.
Right. So he was like, I will tell you everything in exchange for immunity.
Well,
of course.
Of course.
Now, this sparks the FBI's Operation Sun Up. Now, of course, there was a bit of a time-sensitive issue, and that was catching the people who had attempted to kill Ito before the outfit got to them.
Ooh, oh my God, why isn't this a movie?
I don't know. It might be, and I just don't know. Authorities believed they had about an hour before it got out that Ito had survived. Once Ito started giving up names, now having officially flipped to informant, police were pretty quick to arrest Gattuso and Campsey at their homes. The FBI was hoping to flip both of these men as well before the outfit tried to shut them up. When the men made bail on the state attempted murder charges, the federal district attorney brought up federal charges for violating Ito's civil rights, argued for an incredibly high bail due to flight risk just to keep them somewhat in the safety of prison. So they got released on state charges. And so the federal government was like, hang on, we're going to bring these because they really did not want them on the streets. Yeah. And the bail was like, it was like 1.5 million-ish for each man.
Oh my God.
So it's huge. But neither of the men would talk. They had no success in trying to like flip either of these guys. And the outfit was able to put up the money for the new incredibly high bail. They did all this fundraising, put up the money for the bail. Gattuso was once again out of the street exactly like the outfit wanted.
Just cute thinking of them doing fundraising. Like I just think of like Bob Car Wash, Girl Scout cookies.
GoFundMe. Yeah. 5 months later, on July 14th, 1983, a Naperville resident noticed a weird smell coming from a blue-silver 1981 Volvo parked next to his car. Thought it was weird, calls police.
Okay.
The car, turns out, belonged to Campsey. According to Chicago Magazine, again, this is what they found, quote, Jay Campsey's blue dress slacks were pulled down around his ankles. His blue jacket was hiked up to his armpits, revealing numerous stab wounds to his distended abdomen. His head looked like a gray basketball with rivulets of blood dried across his face. Ugh. He was missing his shoes. Johnny Gattuso was lying along the opposite end, his head at Campsey's feet. His white undershirt, stained brown with blood, had been forced up his torso as his stomach swelled from decomposition, revealing similar stab wounds. Gattuso's face had turned black. A garrote was still wrenched around his neck. End quote. So
dun, dun, dun.
They find these guys in the back of a trunk, clearly having been there for a while.
Right. Stinky.
They also talk about how this is a very clear message.
Right.
The mob wanted them found. We talked about getting rid of bodies, right?
Yes.
They would leave them out if they wanted them to be found.
Right.
So pretty clear what happens if you fail a hit. You get hit.
Yep. They were texting, so they had to send a message somehow.
In April 1985, Ito was brought before the President's Commission on Organized Crime. He told them absolutely everything about how Solano had tried to kill him and what happened while he worked the North Side. And he was brought in under like intense secrecy. I think he had been brought in like a black robe with a hood, like full face covering, as like super secret. Solano himself was brought before the commission and pretty much pleaded the fifth the whole time.
He's like, nah.
He actually wasn't indicted on any charges relating to the hit, and because he had a really good job of like keeping the hit and the murders of his hitmen at arm's length. And in fact, from what I could tell, he was never charged with anything during his time as a capo. Like,
I'm sure he wasn't.
Nothing.
He was slick.
Yeah. But Ito's efforts were not in vain. Later, he was brought in to testify in a trial in Kansas City that arose out of Operation Strawman. Thanks in part to his testimony, the federal government was able to convict leaders of the Kansas City's Chavella family, as well as 4 guys from the outfit, including Joey the Clown Lombardo, Angelo the Hook LaPietra, Jackie the Lackey Cerrone, and Joey Ayupa. Street boss for the outfit and likely the final okay to give the hit on Ito.
This is like Kill Bill. Oh my God.
Ito continued over the years to assist the FBI with various cases, putting numerous outfit members away, some who were in our story, some who were not. Cesar DeVarco, the one who like he was Ito's boss, and he called Ito and was like, "Hey, you're going to dinner with the big boss." He was eventually brought up on federal charges as the test case for the newly formed RICO statute at the time. So he was the test case for RICO.
Oh my God.
In total, he aided in the conviction of 15 outfit members and associates.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, following all of this help, Ito was put into federal witness protection program under the name Joe Tanaka.
Oh.
He received severance pay from the Justice Department that allowed him to live in like a pretty decent retirement. It landed Ito and his then wife Linda in Oahu, Hawaii.
Oh.
They stayed there for a bit before moving to the Atlanta suburbs, and it was there where Ito eventually passed away peacefully in hospice in 2004.
Wow. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, I know we don't condone crime here on our beautiful Bad Taste Crime podcast, but that guy kind of rules.
He does. Now, I'm not saying, like, he also kept his arms. There's a lot of people who talk about he was arms distance away from, like, ordering murders and shit.
Yeah, but still, you don't gamble. You don't do that. Don't steal money and stuff.
Yeah. But, like, he also put all these guys away.
Oh, yeah.
So, like...
You know, who are
didn't
we to
even
judge?
out. Yeah. There are not that many people in life who can say they've survived a mob hit.
Oh my God.
And that is just incredible to me. And the fact that he was like, you know what? Fuck you guys.
Yeah, I'm
telling everybody.
I'm taking all you down with me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Super lucky.
He's a badass.
He is kind of a badass.
Yeah.
He's kind of a badass. So before you decide to go join the mob, why don't you check out this podcast?
Hello, this is Margot D of the Not Fade Away podcast. This is the show that talks about folks from the music world who are no longer with us. We're talking about singers, musicians, songwriters, composers. If they made a mark on the world of music, we will talk about them. Past and future episodes include Jim Morrison, Aaliyah, John Belushi, Kurt Cobain, Tupac, and Jerry Garcia. You can find us wherever you get your podcasts under the name Not Fade Away Podcast, and follow us on all of our social media channels as well under Not Fade Away Podcast. And if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, send an email to notfadeawaypodcast@gmail.com. Hope you check us out. Thanks so much.
All right, Rachel, that has been our episode.
It sure has.
About the mob.
About the mob.
Makes me want to organize my own crime.
I can't even organize my closet. One of my favorite little, life mob details I remember from an old documentary is like all of the little code words they used. This is super short. Is like killing the body. They would say is like painting the house, and disposing of the body was like doing the carpentry. I
could see
love
that.
all of the like little code words.
It's like cement shoes, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I used
yeah,
to
yeah.
work at a hardware store, so whenever anybody would be like, "Oh, we need to do this and that," I'm like, "Are they in the mall?"
You know, by just what people are buying.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
cement, a saw,
like,
some chain.
There was a lady one time who came in and was like, "I really need hydrochloric acid," and whichever the one that's like the one that's in all the shows about like dissolving bodies, which I think is hydrochloric acid.
Yeah.
And I looked at her and I was kind of like, because we have paint stripper and stuff. I was like, we do have chemicals. What are you using it for? And she was like, "Oh, haha, you know, my boyfriend got like too mouthy, ha 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 ha." And I was like, "What?"
Okay, but really, what are you using it for?
That's what I was like, "No, we don't have that."
So weird.
I wouldn't even show her. I was like, "No, we don't have that.
Carry that.
And we don't." But I like told my boss.
Go to the murder store, please.
Followed her around.
Oh
I
my
don't
God,
know.
that's
Nothing
so
came
weird.
of it, I guess.
That's so weird.
If you're that lady's husband, sorry.
Well, on that note, our sound and editing is by Tiff Fullman. Our music is by Jason Zakshevsky, the Enigma. This has been the Bad Taste Crime Podcast. We will see you in 2 weeks. Goodbye.
Young women and left their bodies on the hillsides along the highway.
It was as if a wave of evil washed over this town.
We are all evil in some form or